Ravens week here with the Cleveland Browns. It seems like when you're talking about the AFC North, every single week is a rivalry game. Coming up in the first segment, we'll talk about some comments that hit. Scott Petrak had some comments about the Bengals game, and he talked to a few coaches. And you might have some surprising details about what they said about the Bengals. We'll get to that. Tyler Huntley looks like he's going to be playing, according to Mary Kay Cabot. She just retweeted some stuff. Looks like he's going to play. We'll talk about what the Ravens present, as well as offensively with him in, and as well as this Ravens defense that always seems to be stout. Shut down Nick Chubb last year in the first game of the season. Will we be able to get that thing up and running? And then, of course, it's Deshaun Watson's first game in front of the home fans. We'll go into keys to victory. It's a Saturday edition on the game, so we gotta ratchet it up and get it out quicker. So this is the preview of the Browns and the Ravens coming up next on the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB, on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd, from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, the Barbershop 92.3, the Fan, pregame, postgame coverage, Browns, Guardians, Buckeyes, of course, the Cleveland Cavaliers, Mr. G. Bush at G. Bush 91. And now look, as far as what's gone on to this point on the defensive side of the ball, and look, you guys know me in general. It takes a lot for me to go to an area where I'm going to openly basically bash some things. It's been since the Dorsey era that I've gone this route.
Yes, that's more of the knee-jerk reaction, G. Bush. That's my MO. That's what I do.
That's the 355 on a Sunday afternoon, Garrett Bush. Absolutely. But, look, we've tried to be good here. And look, we all understand that, Joe Woods and his tenure here with the Cleveland Browns on the defensive side of the ball is over. We get it. But now, we're starting to look down. Anybody going to hang around? Well, I don't know if any of them are, but let's start with defensive back coach Jeff Howard. Jeff Howard seemed to speak to the media today, and sorry, coach, I got to do this, and decided to explain that the coverage issues on Sunday with Ja'Marr Chase is because the Browns were not ready for Higgins and Boyd. Both of these guys are former 1,000-yard receivers in their day. The fact that they came out of the game so early made it harder in some way, according to defensive backs coach Jeff Howard. They weren't able to adapt, maybe because they weren't sure if they were coming back. And then he just continues to double down on it and triple down on it. I don't even to the point, and look, we all been there. You know what I'm saying? You were a kid in high school, you missed curfew, you probably indulged, and you go home and there's mom or dad, and they got you dead to rights. And you go into one of these, well, see, here's what kind of happened. And you just, as opposed to saying we majorly flawed, you try to give one excuse, and then it's a second excuse. And then if it was me and G hanging out, well, G couldn't find his car keys. And because we were banged up and cracked up. And it just goes on and on and on. But G, to tell me or to try to explain that things got more difficult because T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd left the lineup, and you weren't sure if you could switch what you were doing to go to something else, because maybe if they came back, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Can you not adapt? Can you not sit down and say, all right, guys, here's the game plan. Guess what? Scrap it, because we can go so much easier now. Guess what? Wherever Ja'Marr Chase goes, guess what? Denzel Ward, you go with him. Grant Delpit, you get 7 yards behind Denzel Ward. And you know what? Let's make 11 and 16. I think their names are Trent and Trenton. They sound like two guys who probably grew up with the silk ties, go under the blazer, going to the country club on Sunday afternoon. Gee, this was pathetic. It just absolutely pathetic. There is no other word for it.
I've never heard anything like this in my life. I mean,
anybody who's associated with football all sat there today and said, what is he doing?
You saw it because we going over pre-show notes, and you're like, yeah, we got to get to this first, because I tweeted about it, and I was like, what are you talking? What in God's great? And here's the thing. I asked Aditi about it. She was like, she
if anybody tries to be nicer than me, it's her.
She's like, well, no one who covers the game, who's watching these games, had any clue what he was trying to say. He doubled down on it. How in the world can you have two receivers? You just said it. Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, who are 1,000-yard receivers in this league. And not only that, their starting tight end was out. When you figure out that those guys are on the board, you said your job got harder because you couldn't make adjustments to what you have been studying all week. That's an indictment on, first of all, the way you go about your business, like your philosophy as a defense. As a defense, my coach always told me there's 3 or 4 things that you already have at your that's going to inconvenience you and give offense the advantage. 1, they know the snap count. 2, they know what play they're calling, run or pass. 3, they know what the primary target is and where they want to go identify and do it. And so you as a defender, you have one thing that can help you out. And that's 1, you're going to play fast. You're going to play physical. And if you don't really know what to do, you know what you're going to go out there to do? You're going to go out there and hit somebody and really out physical somebody and play with a level of ball hawking nature. That doesn't show me. You're telling me it doesn't matter who they got at receiver. You just stuck to the script that you came in with, and that is a death sentence for any defense. Any defense. I mean, how hard is it to say, you know what, let's double this guy every play and make somebody else on the other side of this beat us? It's just crazy, Jeff. I've never heard such.
Seeing as I've got it handy, we're going to go through just a couple of these quotes here, okay? We were planning for all 3 of them, and then after one series, 2 of them tap out, and the game changes. So it stresses your adaptability, and you really got to feel the game out. We could probably be more aware of where they are in a situation like that. Basically, what this is like is you're taking a big test. You busted your butt. You know it's going to be hard. You have like no confidence going in there. And you walk in and your teacher says, guess what, kids? Open book. Knock yourself. You tell me the Cincinnati Bengals are taking T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd off the field due to injury, and they're not playing the rest of the day. And somehow, some way, you're going to parlay this into your task. Just got harder. And you say adaptability to change? Well, are you nuts? This is what you do. This is absolutely your job. This is what you have to do. This is what you were paid to do. And we'll go one further. Now, this one here gets even better. Some of the coaches that had caught us, some of the plays caught us in run calls. That's a big part of it because you can't just say we're going to defend Chase and not respect Joe Mixon in the run game. So there's that stress there too. They have 4 weapons that are really, really good players. Hayden Hurst would have been the 5th, didn't play. So they were down to 2 weapons. 2. Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase, and you couldn't put your heads together for 3 minutes and say, all right, here's the deal. Scrap everything we did. If these 2 kids, 11 and 16, beat us, that's on them. But we are not going to lose to 1, and we are not going to lose to number 25. And guess what? All these excuses he's making, it did just that. They lost to those 2 guys.
It's like, and I don't. This is, and let me just be clear. I'm not the dude that wants to come up here and tell you why everybody got to be packing. And I don't. It does me no pleasure to sit here and say we are no closer to what we wanted to become. 3 years later and have to move quarter. But I mean, this is coaching 101. This is coaching 101. And the fact that they even let him speak to the media and he kept talking, is another reason why you don't have the pulse on what's going on at this point. There's no way that comment should be made. That should not be a philosophy of any NFL coach. And that's not an NFL caliber answer or strategy when you're trying to play and win games at the highest level. Jamar Chase got 15 targets, and you said that it was harder to guard him, and you know what? Hey, God bless him. It's the holidays.
And for some of these guys on the defensive side of the ball in coaching capacities, there's not going to be much more of this. My honest belief is that plane is going to touch down after week 18 back in Cleveland. They're going to go to the facilities. And if you were any part of a coach on the defensive side of the ball for the Cleveland Browns, I believe your time is going to be up. It's going to be over. They are going to completely redo that room. They are going to find the strongest, best defensive coordinator they can get. Because I know, yes, some of this is on Coach Stefanski. He's the head coach. But you are giving him Deshaun Watson. Your sole purpose is for that offense to be a 5,000-yard, 400-point offense year in, year out. You go get a guy who's going to walk in here and say, Kevin, I'll tell you if I need you. Otherwise, don't worry about it. We got our own people. I'm coming in. I'm setting up shop. But today was pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. We're going to move it along here. Browns get some good news as far as this week against the Ravens. Guy they've seen before. We're going to touch down on that a little bit. Jeff Lloyd, G. Bush, your latest Locked On Browns. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. If you're looking for a job, you want to explore what you need if you need somebody to come in and work for you. These are the hours. This is the work we're looking for. This is the experience we need. Then you add your job in the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and potentially hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions certainly apply. This episode is brought to you by Audible. Audible is releasing a slate of new football podcasts that we are sure you're going to love. That's why you'll be able to find a sneak peek of the Think Like a Champion podcast available right now as a bonus episode on Locked On Presents. Think Like a Champion is a brand new podcast from Russell Wilson and Audible. Russ is a champion on the field, but off it, we rarely know the grind on the path to greatness. Each episode features interviews with Olympic medalists, NFL stars, and business leaders. Hosts will swap stories and share proven mental techniques that have gotten the world's most elite performers across the finish line and beyond. Head on over to Locked On Presents for a sneak peek of Think Like a Champion, or catch the full series available anywhere you get your podcasts. Available everywhere now. Audible. Get in the game.
Welcome back to the Locked On Browns podcast. G. Bush in the building, Jeff Lloyd in the building. Make sure, check out our episode just dropped about a minute ago. Make sure you drop that. There's a couple seconds ago. Make sure you watch the crossover edition with the Baltimore Ravens. We do that every single Thursday. Get a perspective from behind enemy lines with the crossover content. You'll find out what the Ravens are thinking about the Cleveland Browns. Hopefully they don't judge us by the comments that were presented by our defensive back coaches. But, hey, everyone has a bad day. And make sure you download us wherever you get your podcasts. Jeff, we look at this game, and one of the big news that came out, Mary Kay Cabot, beat reporter of Cleveland.com, came out and said that she retweeted something that looks like Tyler Huntley is going to play. And I'll tell you what, that does bring a different dimension to the table. Last year, Huntley as a starter is 2-5 currently, but out of those games, there was a lot of one point losses. He played well in some of those games, brings a new aspect to the table in terms of his legs. He has a decent arm. He's not a guy that you can come in and just, second guess or not be ready to play, because that could be an issue He's going to be playing. What do you think that means for the Cleveland Browns, and what does that mean for what they need to do? It looks like that they're going to run the ball, but is this going to be something where now Mark Andrews is a guy who might be in play a little bit at tight end because there is a better throwing option than him? And then I believe Anthony Thomas is his name, or Anthony Brown, or I can't remember his name. The guy that was going to play other than Huntley.
Yes. Anthony Brown, obviously, it's funny enough. Anthony Brown, actually, New Jersey kid, went to my rival high school, to DC kid, made it his way out to Oregon, was a final cut by the Ravens, but made the practice squad. He will be your backup quarterback on Sunday. The thing that kind of was weird here is, Tyler Huntley, was practicing, but was in the concussion protocol. So I don't technically know how that works, but it's official now. Tyler Huntley is out of the concussion protocol. I think it's 6 practices, I think they said, but we all know it's almost 2 weeks now. Lamar Jackson has not practiced. Lamar Jackson, I don't have a contract next year. If I'm not 100%, I ain't going out there. I don't blame you one bit, Lamar Jackson. I'm not saying this is what was said or what was done, but if Lamar Jackson not 100%, son, do not take that field. Tyler Huntley, Browns fans, you should be familiar. Last year when Baltimore came to Cleveland, Lamar Jackson started. JOK got into his ankles. Lamar went down. We got to meet Tyler Huntley. The interesting thing with Tyler Huntley is when you talk about the Ravens and Lamar Jackson and how unique he is, what do you do as far as a backup quarterback? It's hard to be able to have somebody, but they do. Tyler Huntley can do all the things Lamar Jackson can do. Yes, less talented, not as fast, a really good player, but he is Lamar Jackson light, if you want to go with that. He started last week. He closed out the win the week before against the Broncos. He started last week, left the game with the concussion. Anthony Brown, who you brought up, obviously was got to go in to finish it. Didn't do much. Basically, the Ravens just kind of had to ice it. They're going to run the ball. It's this time of the year. 4:30 kickoff Saturday in Cincinnati. The high on Saturday is going to be 36 degrees. So it's going to be like 33, 32 degrees when we kick off at 4:30. And God knows where it's going to be. Everybody knows. Look, the key, obviously, of course, is going to be the way the wind comes off the lake. We all know that. But
by the way, Jeff,
yes, sir.
I'm not going to be too happy about that. I'll be out there for the pregame festivities at 92.3 The Fan. And listen, that 33 is not something I want any parts of.
You need to put in a nice phone call to your fans over there. And, guys, I need a little space heater. I'd like it right between my feet. Look, G's big. G's a big dude, and he's full of metal after a bunch of surgeries.
Yes.
That does not correlate to 30-degree temperatures. So G's going to have a tough one. It's going to be a tough one. Somebody, bring like the big extra parka for him. And the other thing, it's just, it's going to be tough for G. It's going to be a tough day. But they should be able to, J.K. Dobbins, the running game has been there. And this is my biggest fear. And we'll get into this team a little bit more as a whole in the third segment, the Ravens. Ravens do 2 things well right now. Their running game is really good. They stop the run really good. Uh-oh. For the Cleveland Browns, that's a big uh-oh. Because now keep in mind, our linebackers are probably going to be Deion Jones, Reggie Ragland. Reggie Ragland's been in Cleveland for about a hot minute. Tony Fields. Hey, 2 weeks ago, Tony Fields was God. Last week, Tony Fields was the court jester. So we will talk, we'll see the way it all works. The defense has been playing somewhat better. Inspired, Perrion Winfrey, Taven Bryant, looking something like NFL defensive tackles. Mark Andrews, now this is where it's weird. Mark Andrews has killed the Cleveland Browns up until this first game this year. Didn't have that great of a day. He's kind of an afterthought right now. They're not getting him involved. They just haven't really been throwing the ball that well. And that also goes to the fact that the Baltimore Ravens, 5 years in with Lamar Jackson, still have no idea what a passing game and wide receivers look like or work with Lamar Jackson. So that's kind of on them. So the focus for the Ravens is going to be, we're going to run it with our running backs, and they got a bunch of them. You have a quarterback who's mobile. You got a quarterback, who has a history with Mark Andrews. He's got starts under his belt. The moment is not going to be too big for him. The key is going to be for the Cleveland Browns, and we'll get to this again in segment 3 when we focus a little bit more here, is can they get the dual threat going on offense? Can they run the ball? Can we get that running game? Can we get the paddles on the chest and get the running game revived? You should know this team well. And, Lamar, and as for Deshaun, it's getting back, and it's taking another step. This is a defense that's even better than the defense he faced last week. So, now, he had a good game against the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a bigger test this week. And, for Deshaun, look, 700 days, first time he's going to see 30-degree temperatures. It wasn't that bad last week in Cincinnati. But the Ravens are coming. It'll be Tyler Huntley. Browns are not unfamiliar with Mr. Huntley, but he does bring some of the same issues that Lamar does. And what they do well certainly has been what has been issues for the Browns up until this point this year, Jay.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those ones where we expect to see Deshaun Watson take that next step. I was on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. They said, "What do you expect from him?" I said, "He had 276 last game. Show me some steps and progress that way. I want to see some more steps. I want to see a couple more steps where you might want a 300 game. Like, it's been a while since we saw one here. Maybe a run on the ground. These are the type of things that we're looking for, the progression for Deshaun Watson to get better. And so here's the thing that I'll foreshadow next week. This is a game where, well, not next week, but next segment. This is a game where this could get kind of ugly a little bit because you're playing against a backup quarterback, but you're playing against a team that has a good defense. And what you're coming in, you're telling, if the team does not show up and they fall flat in a game where you're playing one of your rivals, it's a backup quarterback, and you don't perform well, this could be one of those type games where people look at Kevin Stefanski and it's a referendum on how much this team is still fighting, how much are they still in it, and if they're going to be, are they going to go down fighting or swimming, right? And at the end of the day, this is going to fall on whether or not people are going to look at, has Kevin Stefanski lost control of the team, or is he the voice that this team is continuously listening to and can get them to the place that they want to go? So it's a tough one because we would expect less if we would expect more if Lamar Jackson was playing, and you say, okay, well, the Ravens are where they're at for a reason. Well, when you start saying, okay, well, they got the backup quarterback, and what are we doing here? This is a game where you must be competitive in this game in front of your home crowd and in front of and with 33-degree temperatures, because guess what? These tickets is going for $8, and they was 100 at one point in time. We don't want to see that happen in the next couple of weeks as well.
Here's the role reversal of this game. The Browns are now coming in this game with Deshaun Watson, and Jacoby Brissett threw for about, I think it was like 223, 230 first game. Lamar threw for 120. Ravens are now coming in with their second-string quarterback. Browns are coming in with the $238 million man. Y'all better show up to play. You absolutely better show up to play. We're going to go a little bit more in depth here to the Ravens. They are a well-rounded group. We'll get to that here. Jeff Lloyd, G. Bush, your latest Locked On Browns. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From pro football to college bowl season to the basketball and the World Cup. We got it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Welcome back, Locked On Browns podcast. We got 4 games to go, Jeff. And you know what we'll do? We're not packing it in. No one packs it in over here. We're still keeping it going on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you can learn every single time that we got content pushing out. And make sure you continue to do that. Make sure you Locked On Browns. It continues to be your first listen of each and every day. Ravens week, anytime the Ravens come into the building, I don't like the Ravens. I don't want to eat birthday cake with them. And I preferably would not like to see them do well ever. So that's just is what it is. But you know what that means. They want to have the same feeling and same smoke for us too. Jeff, in this game, we've talked about a lot of the offense, the defense on the other side of the football. Nick Chubb has not looked like Nick Chubb the last couple of games. I've kind of prognosticated and said that, I don't know if the two styles that they're trying to marry actually work, which is the shotgun read type stuff where you're doing a lot more east and west rather than the under center stuff where you saw Nick Chubb being who Nick Chubb is, a dominant running back, getting downhill, making one cut and making guys really think about a business decision if they want to tackle him in the secondary. It has not seemed like that thing with Deshaun Watson has got going with the running game yet. But I will tell you this. That's something that I think they're gonna really need to work on in off season, and I don't think it's something you can really put together overnight in the season. It seems to me that they're trying to run two different styles of offense. They're running pretty much a version of the Jacoby Brissett package where it is some some read stuff. There is some quarterback keeps. There's a little more shotgun, but it's still not quite the evolution that you're looking for, where this thing will be a Nick Chubb balanced attack with Deshaun Watson and down the field attacks as well. Your thoughts on how the running game has gone and how can they get that together, mixed up more against the Baltimore Ravens?
And that's where it's going to get tricky this week because, look, the Ravens, both games Browns played the Ravens last year, Nick Chubb was a spectator. The Ravens just had his number. They had zero faith, zero belief that Baker Mayfield could do anything to defeat them. It's the way they played it. And you know what? First game, it worked out. Second game, who knows? Lamar, went down. Lamar stayed in. Possibly that game, turns out to be a 25-22 Ravens victory as opposed to a Browns 24-22 victory. But you got to get it going here. The thing will be for me is I think it's going to take Deshaun Watson's arm to get Nick Chubb's legs going. This isn't going to be your normal Browns where, early you try to get Nick involved. You're going to have to come out throwing. If you cannot make them respect it, and of course, this is where it gets tricky because you got Marlon Humphrey, you've got Marcus Peters, you've got Marcus Williams, their first round pick from Notre Dame, the safety. That's some good players, but you got no choice because the Ravens are going to come out and they're going to walk every white jersey they got to within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. Because you want to know what? Even if Nick's got to avoid somebody in the backfield, by the time he gets himself right, the best he's going to do in that first game in Baltimore, I think it was 8 carries for 16 yards. Most of them, it was -4 defeating a guy to lose maybe 2, or maybe miraculously to get back to the line of scrimmage. You've got to throw. Look, this is the reason you did this. You did this because you know how good your running game is. You made this move for Deshaun Watson because eventually nobody's going to believe in your passing game. So you go out and get one of the best guys to do it. He's going to have to do it. He better be ready to go. I think he's going to be a great showing. I think Deshaun, the type of guy he is, the showman he is, he's ready for this. He is amped to play in Cleveland for the first time in front of these Browns fans. What also gets tricky with the Ravens is, I said, they run the ball very well. They run it very, very well. So if there's an instance where the Browns get down, it's going to be one of those where you get nervous if we're going to be able to rally on offense or you're going to be able to get key stops when you need him. The third thing that's tricky is this is a great special teams play. This team is great at special teams. Calais Campbell last week, huge block of a field goal. Ravens won the game by 2 points. Here's a block that field goal. Cade York, we know there's been the struggles there this year as far as blocked kicks. This team is very, very complete. You get a big, big advantage that Lamar Jackson is not playing this week, but nothing's changed. And look, whether it's 0.0004% chance that this team is going to play in the playoffs, it doesn't matter. You're men. You're grown men. You need to come out here and play for the next 4 weeks, earn your paychecks, and play as hard as you possibly can. And the other thing is for the defensive coaches, that party may be over. But as G said, if it's not looking really good here over the next few weeks, it's going to cause some questions and maybe some conversations that nobody wants to have. I want Stefanski back. Most likely he's going to go through 3 years with this team with a winning record. You find me a coach Cleveland, and with Cleveland Browns attached to his name, who's got a winning record, not after 1 season, after 2, because most of the time they only make year 2 or they don't make year 3. He will go through year 3 with a winning record, and if he does have the winning record, that means Deshaun Watson has looked really, really good playing with Coach Stefanski. I do agree, though, G, it's been difficult offensively. Coach spoke on it today. Basically, they're funneling out some Jacoby stuff, funneling in some Deshaun stuff, and this is where they kind of got a tough hand. Short week to play the Ravens. Next week will be normal because they're going to go Saturday to Saturday, but it always makes for a little bit more difficulty like that, especially when you're trying to incorporate this guy in here and, you're still trying to get a read on, the stuff you've run in both games. You know what? Let's throw that out. I don't like that for now. We'll worry about that in the spring. We'll reintroduce it, see if we can find a better way to work that out. But the Ravens, one thing about it is they come every week. Whether they come everybody healthy or they're down 7 starters. The Ravens are the same team every week. They're rabid. They play hard. They play fierce. They play ferocious. Roquan Smith coming in there has made Patrick Queen a better player because they can use Patrick Queen like we want to use Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah and say, attack. So as long as you get into open space and you cause some pause or hesitation, the rest of the boys, it just makes it that much easier to get there and make the play. But it's going to be a tough one, G. I'm looking forward to it. 4:30 under the lights. Everybody's going to be geeked up.
They better be ready. We gonna see what the Browns gonna talk about. I'm gonna see what their heart is talking about, because this is where technically and traditionally things have fallen off for the Browns when playoffs are over. Maybe you don't have the season that you wanted. Maybe you don't have the headlines that you necessarily thought you were gonna have. But guess what? You got a game to play. And if only one team comes out here to play, the NFL is too hard to fake it to make it. One team's going to come out here and you'll get embarrassed. You got to come out, and I want to see the Browns actually come out with some fight. And I want to see if Deshaun Watson is taking that step and his coaching staff has the team ready to play. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, and with Coach Steph, look, to this point, he is 1-4 in his career against the Cleveland Browns. Against Baltimore Ravens. That's got to get better. It's going to absolutely have to get better. He is Garrett Bush, part of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, part of the Barbershop 92.3 The Fan. You can check him out there. Always Saturday morning. G will be out in the parking lot. Hopefully, somebody's going to have some heat for my big buddy over here so he doesn't get, they don't have to move him out like a popsicle after the pregame show. So make sure you're checking that out. At GBush91. Make sure you're following myself, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. The show, Locked On Browns, at Locked On Browns follow back account. Go ahead and check all that out as well. For everyone who makes Locked On Browns your first listen, whether it is on your favorite podcast platform, whether it's on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. You get notifications on. So when the shows drop, they are there for you to digest. Also, make sure you're throwing some likes on the episodes for us. Just makes for further promotion of the show. If you got Roku, go ahead, search Locked On Cleveland Sports. You will find the Locked On Browns podcast, the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, Locked On Cavs, Locked On Guardians. Go ahead, all the Cleveland sports you can possibly digest. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.